Podcast listeners, welcome back to another episode of City of Champions. Today, I had the sincere pleasure of speaking with Sylvia Soo, a woman of many talents. On Sylvia's resume, you might find artist, actor, author, entrepreneur, philanthropist, inspirational speaker, and world traveler, just to name a few things. However, what you won't find on there, and what she's been best known for in the last 8 years, is two-time cancer survivor. This tough chick kicked cancer's ass twice now. And while the fights weren't easy, Sylvia has grown tremendously, and she's using her experiences to help others, aiming to leave this world in a better place than she found it, ultimately. I really hope you enjoy my conversation with Sylvia as much as I did. Sitting here at the home of Sylvia Soo, Edmonton born and raised?
No.
No? Where were you born?
I was born in Fort McMurray.
In where?
Fort McMurray.
Fort McMurray.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then I moved here for second year university.
Sylvia, for the audience who doesn't know you at this point, how would you describe yourself in a couple sentences, what you do and who you are? And then we'll jump into the backstory.
Okay. What I do and who I am?
Mm-hmm.
So currently I work with leather. I design and make leather goods. But I wear a lot of hats as well, so I've been really involved in the cancer community. Mm-hmm. So I'll do talks, I'll do speeches sometimes. I've written a book. Who am I? Who is Sylvia? I don't know. I have a lot of interests, mm-hmm. and I don't like to kind of limit myself in a box. So.
Right.
I always like being curious and exploring and being ambitious and just look into different things, like whether that's crafts or
following
arts,
your curiosity
travel,
and your passion. That's mm-hmm. perfect. So give us a little background on what it was like for you. You grew up in Edmonton here, correct?
Fort McMurray.
No, but when did you move to Edmonton?
I moved to Edmonton about 19.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, all right. New twist to the story. You tell me then. It's your story to tell. Just a little background, family, kind of, what you did through high school and sports, things like that.
Okay, so I didn't play any sports.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up super religious.
All right.
Like extremely religious.
Oh, this will be fun.
So yeah, that's a huge part of my life. And then I kind of moved away from religion. Mm-hmm. In my early 20s, went to school, went to college in Fort McMurray, and then I moved down to Edmonton for university. Mm-hmm. So my interests back then were a lot different, just because I evolved quite a lot as a young adult,
yeah.
and kind of got to know myself a little bit more, and still continuing to know who I am as I grow older.
Now, are you religious still, or did you fall away from that?
Yeah,
that might be a personal question.
No,
I can say, for example, me, like I went to Christian school for 2
mm-hmm.
years, grades 6 and 7, and I just remember being in it, being completely like sort of all encompassed by the religious aspect of things.
Yep.
Really, it makes it easier to say and label yourself as a real religious person, and you kind of fall away from it later in life because you're not surrounded by it.
Right.
But I think more so than do you believe in God, the important question is, do you believe in being a good person? Do you believe in helping others? Do you believe in leaving this place in a better position than when you came into the world? Those are the things that at least are important to me. So I don't know if and spirituality is a big part of it too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think...
what if I close that window?
Yeah, is it open? Sorry.
Well, maybe it's not.
Oh, sorry. Of course, the sirens are going off now. Downtown.
Hopefully everyone's okay.
Okay. It was super quiet before you got here. It's like, oh,
of course.
Perfect.
As soon as you hit record, that's when.
Good question. Yeah, my religious experience was actually a little bit traumatic. It was quite intense. It wasn't, it was very consuming. Mm-hmm. So as I got into my early 20s, late teens, I made a conscious kind of decision to step away from that mm-hmm. and decide that I needed to make decisions for myself and figure out what it was that I believed in. Mm-hmm. That being said, I do believe in a higher power. I'll be as bold as to say, like, I do believe in God. And I do practice like spirituality and things like that. I don't go to church right now. And I'm very liberal in my thinking and very accepting. I think growing up, we were in a way taught to kind of judge people just by learning that things were very black and white and right and wrong.
Right.
So when you grow up in that, I guess you feel a tendency to judge other people. So it's just kind of stepping back from that and being more accepting and open to other views and stuff like that.
That all comes with experience too, right? You meet people with different views of the world, but that doesn't necessarily make them a bad person.
No.
You realize, hey, we can all live in harmony here.
Totally, yeah.
So what were you doing in your early 20s?
My early 20s, I actually went to the U of A for education. So I thought I wanted to be a teacher.
Yeah.
And then I graduated with a Bachelor of Education, and directly after that I moved to South Korea.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. 2 weeks of graduating, I moved out there for a short-term job, which ended up to be about 3 years. 2 different jobs over 3 years.
What were you doing, if I can ask?
I was teaching English.
Teaching English, okay.
But I was actually the English teacher.
Yeah.
So I was teaching English. I taught at a private school, and then I taught at a public school, and they were very great years of my life. Did a lot of traveling, met a lot of people. Started a not-for-profit down there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What was the backstory there?
Okay, so you mentioned earlier, like, do you believe in? I can't quite remember how you worded it, but just
leaving the world in a better place than you came into it.
I always believe that. Like, I even had a conversation with someone like yesterday or the day before about this, and I was just like, I feel like I have a purpose, and I don't want to waste my life doing things that waste my energy. I feel like we have energy, and we can either put it into something that's going to change the world or make the world a better place. And you can have the mentality, which is like, I'm just one person. How can I make a difference to the world? But if we just think, well, I'm one person, I can make a big difference in my circle, and that can have like multiplying effect.
Lead by example.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like that's totally possible. So back to your question. What was your question again about the nonprofit?
What was the backstory with the nonprofit? So what was the framework for that?
Okay, so there was 3 expats, me and my 2 other colleagues, and Korea's a very interesting place.
And what would you mean by interesting?
Especially in your 20s. Okay, you do get a lot of expats, and for those who aren't familiar with the terms, it's just like foreigners living in a different country.
Right, expatriate.
Yeah. So it can get quite debaucherous, to say.
Okay. All right. So we all know where we're headed. Okay.
So it's very, everybody, I guess, feels very free over there. There's a lot of things that happen, drinking and sex and all that kind of crazy stuff over there.
Right. You're a long way from any like repercussions.
Yeah. And you, in a way, a lot of the foreigners that go over there all of a sudden get this sense of stardom, like they're really special just for being foreigners or speaking English. So I feel a lot of people use that in a way, I don't know, to their advantage, and it just becomes a little bit too much. Like, so I was like, there must be more to being in a different country than, just sleeping with the locals or being made to be like this amazing person,
right?
Amazing person when you're not, you're not conducting yourself in a very nice way.
Right.
So I wanted to make a difference, and so did my 2 other colleagues. And we, working in the school systems, we realized there was a very huge gap with children that didn't have the money to learn English, and then children who came from very rich or wealthy families who were able to take multiple English lessons or private tutoring lessons, and then therefore they would have an advantage later on in life because they could speak English. Right.
So for my own context, how important, say, in an Asian country or Korea specifically, is it to know English? How much of an advantage is that over people who never are able to learn?
It's quite an advantage. It'll give you like a wider pool of job opportunities. And it's just almost like a status thing, I guess, right? If you like just speaking English, people are like, wow, I want to be your friend. You'll have doctors being like, I want to be your friend. Can we meet up? Like, that doesn't happen here. It's pretty
lots of people speak English.
Yeah, exactly. But
do you speak any other languages?
No. I can understand Cantonese a bit, and I can read and write Korean now that I live there. But
And what's your family's background?
They're Malaysian from China. Like, they're Malaysian Chinese, so they're Chinese from Malaysia.
Okay,
yeah.
So you set up a not-for-profit there in order to help kids get access to English lessons.
Yeah, so we organize teachers who were like wanting to make a difference as well, and we organize them to go into like orphanages and different places where they would teach children English.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And is it still running today without your guidance?
I know it ran for quite a few years after we left.
Yeah.
And I'm not too sure if it's still running. It's been quite a while. I left Korea in 2009.
Right.
So
time moves quick, eh?
Yeah, I kind of like hands off. Okay, this is whoever is left. Yeah. That's your project. But they did become an NGO, which is great. Amazing. They became like the biggest not-for-profit kind of organization.
That's really cool
in that regard.
So what ultimately led you to leave Korea?
I planned to go to Korea for only 2 months, to be honest.
And how long did you end up being there?
3 years.
3 years.
It was the debt. It was the debt from university. And I was like, okay, if I work really hard while I'm over here, I can pay it off, which I did. And also travel. So... And what got me to leave there or stay there?
No, what got you to come back?
Come back. Yeah. Oh, what got me to come back? Right. So I had gone into my second contract with a public school, and then half a year before it ended, I had found a lump in my breast. I was going to bed one night, and I kind of felt it when I was taking off my bra, and then I went to my doctor, and they checked it out, and she's like, well, it looks fine, but come back.
And sorry, this is in Korea?
This is in Korea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is in Korea. Come back. So I did end up going back in like 6 months later maybe.
Yeah.
And then she was like, okay, well, it kind of looks a little bit suspicious now. You need to do a biopsy. Yeah. And I was just like, okay. And then what it came down to was kind of like cost. It was going to be, I think it was going to be $800 for a biopsy.
Right.
And it's just like, oh, I can just come back to Canada instead of staying longer in Korea and get it done. So I actually ended up staying a few more months after my contract, and then came back home. Yeah. So
that's when you ultimately found out you were diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yeah, a week when I came back.
What was going through your mind at that time? Like, are you positive? You seem like a positive person. So that whole time from the initial, like, hey, let's keep an eye on this, to the time of like, yes, you have breast cancer. What was going through your head? Were you like, it's probably nothing? Or were you sort of internalizing that and like, oh my God, something bad's about to happen?
I would think about it every now and then. And what's funny is, I think after that second time I went back to my doctor and she's like, it's looking suspicious, I was watching TV at home, and it's funny because most of it is Korean, so you're flipping channel. No. And then Oprah. Okay. I was like, yes,
my girl.
This is my girl's on. And Oprah came on, and the segment was about breast cancer.
Come on.
I know, and I was just sitting there, and I was like, come on, I have breast cancer.
So Oprah told you that you have breast cancer.
That's what ran through my mind, yeah. And I was just like, I better get home and check this out. So like a foreboding or something. I don't know.
So from that initial diagnosis, did you guys did you jump right into like, okay, what do we do about this? Like next steps, like treatment. What was the process there? So
I came back, I did the checkup, and then I got a call less than a week later, where the doctor told me that it was cancerous. So after that, there's a lot of meeting with medical professionals. It was very busy, but it was also a lot of waiting at the same time, which was quite torturous.
Right, I can imagine, yeah. That not knowing and not having control is probably one of the worst parts.
Completely, especially when you're in your 20s. Yeah.
So did you reach out to other people at this point? At what point did you start the Facebook diaries?
That's a good question. It was shortly after, but I don't think it was it right? Because I did journal about, I think I wrote it down, but I don't think it was on Facebook right away.
Okay.
Yeah, or maybe it was. It's been quite a while from that time. But I did start writing right away. I enjoy writing, and if there's something significant, then, there's usually a prompter to start writing.
Yeah. And what kind of things would you write? Would it just be what you're feeling, or would it be like a self-dialogue, like self-talk?
Kind of story-like, I think, yeah.
Like turn your life into a sort of narrative about what's happening currently?
Yeah.
And did you ever think that was going to turn into more at that point?
No, at that time I think it was just to kind of, for myself, just so I could remember everything that was going on and my feelings. And then it was moved to informing everybody that wanted to know what was going on.
Yeah. So you didn't have to have 100 conversations, right?
Yeah.
And then at what point did you start getting people reaching out to you and you realized that you had a positive impact, not just keeping people up to date?
Right. When I put it in a private Facebook page, and then some people were saying, can I have this person join too? Because they're going through something similar, and I know this could help somebody. So then I really thought about it. I was like, do I want to do this? Do I want to make it completely public? It's your feelings. It's so honest. It's, what's happening with you. And I can be quite a reserved and private person, but I was like, hey, I don't mind sharing this. So.
Because you probably realized at that point that it could have value to other people.
Absolutely. Therapeutic for me, and also bring a lot of value for somebody going through the same experience. Right. Yeah.
Well, I think pretty much everyone has been affected, either themselves or someone in their family, by whether it's a physical or a mental illness. And mental illness is something that's obviously becoming a lot more prevalently in terms of awareness. Not that it hasn't always been there, but we're much more informed and aware of it now. How do you go about talking about these experiences in a positive way, such that it has therapeutic value versus commiserating? Instead of saying, poor us, or life sucks. How do you put that positive spin on it?
Right. I think it's part, maybe my personality.
Did you ever encounter anyone who was super negative that you kind of had to brush off, or that might have impacted you negatively?
I've heard of people that have been super miserable. Yeah. And I think... And there's always this conception or misconception about cancer and how once you have it, it's gonna... Well, obviously it's gonna change your life, but people feel like maybe it's gonna change your life, so then you're gonna live better, you're gonna be a better person. And I've always been under the idea that hard times kind of bring out what's already there.
Yeah, amplify it.
It. So I think different people react to different things differently. And I also knew that, I wanted to kind of help other people in a way, and I could be a voice. So I felt like, and also I didn't need to be positive all the time. I think that was part of the thing too. I wanted people to know, it's okay to be depressed sometimes, or sad, or completely distraught. And that's okay, because a lot of people feel like they have to mask it. But I think there's something really special about being vulnerable and being really real. Just in present day, when my friends come to me and they are vulnerable and they share things with me, I think that's really, really special, because not everyone can do that. And if you're able to receive that and be like, hey, I accept you, even though you're not always happy.
Yeah.
I appreciate you showing that side of it to me. So I just kind of wanted people to be able to see like the very sad side of what was going on, as well as like happiness. Like I wasn't super depressed the whole time.
Right. But it's okay not to be okay, right?
It's totally okay not to be okay.
That vulnerability too, I think you're seeing more and more of in life. People are realizing, especially with social media, that it disarms people. If you're vulnerable and honest and open, right? Like they've got nothing to say to you. Like
what can they say?
They can't say anything. Right?
Here I am, completely naked, in a sense. Like,
which is something that you did end up doing, right? In the Scar Project? That was a series
pretty naked. Yeah, pretty naked. I did have some concerns, not the word, but some kind of like limits and boundaries that I did address with the photographer before I did the shoot. And he was very good with that, and I felt super comfortable. But
so after the first, and spoiler alert, the first diagnosis, and you went through some pretty radical treatment, right? Lots of chemotherapy. What's your recollection of that?
Oh God.
What was the timeline?
I would never wish chemo on my worst enemy. It's awful. I've done interviews, for my book and stuff, and some people react differently to chemo, but I had the worst time with it. Like, I remember the very first chemo that I had, I did my rounds. So you go into the Cross Cancer here in Edmonton, they give you an IV, and then you're there for the morning or the afternoon, a few hours, and you're just hooked up to the IV. And then I finished, and I was like, oh, I feel so good. Let's go to IKEA. I need to get some furniture.
Yeah.
So I'm in the van with my dad and my sister, and luckily he had a bucket in the back of his car for some reason. And like we got there, and I was like, oh. I don't feel very good.
Yeah, changed my mind.
Yeah, and that's kind of where the nausea started, and it was always like that. I had 6 cycles of chemo, and it was like that. Very nauseous, very kind of like you feel like you're dead for right after chemo for a week and a half, and then you're like, oh, I feel like myself again, and then it's time to do it again.
So you're just constantly kind of getting beaten down.
Yeah, completely, and then there's the physical changes after a while. Like at first you're like, oh, this is exciting. I'm going to cut my hair short. I would never do that in real life. And then it's like, what? My hair's falling out. Like, oh my God, where's my eyelashes? Yeah. Oh no, I look like an alien. Who am I? So it's tough. I mean, it's a big psychological ride, and you do deal with a lot of emotions, like sense of self, sense of what is beauty, who am I, just a lot of those, and especially in your formative 20s when you're trying to figure out what you want to do with your life, and all of a sudden you have to be like, well, what am I gonna do with my life?
Right, exactly. Well, priorities probably shift pretty quickly. What kept you on a positive note for, like, how did you learn to continue loving yourself? Like, how did you shift your view of self-beauty and learning to find your sort of inner beauty that really helped you get through that portion?
Yeah. It's still a journey. I mean, the way I look at it, the 20s is kind of like a very egocentric time.
Yeah.
Maybe for everyone. Just more focused on self. And then now that I'm in my 30s, I find that the way I see the world is almost like, what can I offer my interactions versus, what can the world give to me? And I mean, I was giving to the world in a sense in my 20s, but just in a general, in a general sense. Sorry, I lost the question.
What helped you through in terms of discovering, or being able to love yourself, because that's so important, right? Like we're so hard on ourselves, and I think we're always the last person to forgive us. If we ever do something wrong, everyone else forgives us long before we forgive ourselves, and we can be really hard on ourselves, at least certain people with that personality.
Well, it was tough. I mean, I did some modeling, and I was considered pretty before cancer, and then with the cancer, I lost my hair. Like, as I said, I hardly recognized myself in the mirror, and I gained a lot of weight. And it was, you know, those moments looking into the mirror and being like, ooh, I'm not like what the world might classify as pretty anymore, and just kind of having those feelings. And I remember when I'd finished chemo and then I was looking for a job, and I was looking for a serving job.
Yeah.
That was really disheartening, because
you know, that's all tied together.
It totally is.
Yeah.
It's just, that's just the truth of the way this world operates, right? Like, I used to work at Joey's and Earl's, and then, you know, I'd go there and apply, and I wouldn't even get, you know, a call back. Or so there was that, and it was just like, oh, it's like, I'm like, is the world this superficial? And it really made me think about beauty in a different way. And even with dating, it was just like, I was just very tired of just people just looking at you for just your face, right?
Yeah.
And it was kind of a journey of like, you know, well, what is beauty? And looking at it differently. Yeah.
Did you develop any tactics that helped you break through people's initial sort of first glance perception into like tapping into them, getting to know you as a person quicker versus just the outward appearance? Like, did you have any one-liners? Yeah, I'm bald. I know it. Like, things like that.
It's tricky because like when you have cancer, it's funny. You almost feel like even after you've done all your treatment, you almost feel like you have this dirty secret in your pocket.
Really?
And that you need to tell people, even if it's like on a date or something, you're like, oh, by the way, I've had cancer.
Just drop it in, like, yeah, like, oh, that's my ex over there, and I had cancer.
Yeah, it's like, it's really none of their business, and you know, but it's almost like you have to tell them. Like,
but it can be a defining thing in a lot of people's lives,
It's
right?
huge. Like, and I know a lot of people who have had cancer, and then when they're done, you know, they haven't been open with their journey, and then when they're done, they just want to kind of push it away and forget that it ever happened. And the way I see it is, it's such a huge part of my life. It doesn't define who I am, but it is a part of why I am the way that I am. Right. I think so.
It's clear certain paths for you that you ended up following, and presumably have very much enjoyed these paths. So then, round 2. Tell us what happened.
Oh my God.
We're getting into it here.
So I was like starting to feel like myself again. My hair was growing back, just like Samson.
Getting your strength back.
That's a Bible reference.
Yeah, no, I got it. Said Christian school, 2 years. Okay. Raised Catholic, too. I know them all.
So, like, feeling like myself again. I was just like, and I didn't mention, but I decided I didn't want to teach in post-secondary school. Okay. So all this time I've been searching for a career or what I was going to do next, and I was like, okay, I can finally get back to life. I can figure out what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And then I went into the hospital to get a reconstructive surgery, and that's when I found out that it had come back, or they didn't get it all the first time. Right. And so I was like, oh my God.
Come on, man.
Come on. This was like 4 years later, and I was like, really?
Yeah. So how was the mindset different that time? Was it, I got this, or was it, you know, how did that, what was your self-talk there?
Yeah, so the first time was very much like, I'm young, I'm 20, I'm fabulous, I'm wear stilettos when I'm going through treatment, I got this. World, I'm going to show you how this is done. And very like public, super public. The second time, it was just like, whew, what? Again? Really? And the first time I swore, like, I said, if I have to do chemo again, I would rather die. I was like, if it comes back, I'm not going to do chemo again. Right. And, you know, after you have your first diagnosis, you always kind of live with that fear of it coming back. Right. And it becomes more distant with time. Like, you don't think of it every day, maybe every couple days, every week, and then it becomes more distant to like the point of 4 years. You're like, yeah, I got this. And boom, it's back. Nope. So I kind of went inwards. I went on social media. I kind of like let everybody know what was going on. then I decided that I just really needed to heal something within myself. I needed to kind of figure out what was going on spiritually, mentally, and really make some time for myself. Put my job search on pause and really delve into healing what needed to be healed.
Yeah, I read somewhere that you said, most of the answers in life lie within. You just need to have the conversation. Where did you search for that? Where did you go to get that mirror to look back into you?
Yeah, I went online. So I was searching for cancer retreats, but I was never drawn to like yoga retreats or big group retreats. I just was looking for something. I just didn't know exactly what I was looking for. And then I found this one retreat out in BC, put on by this group called Callanish. And it just sounded like the most amazing fit and exactly what I needed. It was like this group that runs these retreats and also like daily retreats, weekly retreats, and they do on this one specific retreat that I went to, like mind body work. So there's a little bit of yoga, there's massage therapy, there's sound therapy. Interesting. You do tai chi.
So a really holistic approach.
Super holistic and very listening based. So we were out in the woods for about a week. And there's something about the forest that is very, I don't know, reflective of me, I think. I'm a city girl at heart, but my name actually means in the forest.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel a connection with the forest sometimes, somehow. I always. So you're out there in the forest and you're kind of disconnected from all the craziness of life.
Phones,
social
media,
computers. And then every morning you start off with like the sound therapy, sound bowls and tai chi.
So what would they play? Just like pleasant sounds? Are we talking like whale noises or? There
was a specialist or someone who was like a sound therapist. So she had sound bowls. Okay. Are you familiar with sound bowls?
No. Teach me.
They're like different sizes of crystal bowls that are so like in a cylinder shape.
Yeah.
And then you have like this little wand thing that taps into it and kind of makes it like a resonating, beautiful sound.
So really like pure, vibrant sounds. No, I get it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
There's a reason why the Om is part of meditation, right? Because that resonance really affects us as human beings. Deep
down,
right? And culturally too, like we're auditory creatures. That's why song is so impactful to us as a species. So, sorry, continue.
Yeah, so there's that.
Yeah.
And then we would do group sessions and single sessions throughout the day. So we had a schedule. So sometimes we do like a group like art therapy class together. One time we were talking about like something as deep as like death and what that meant to us. And, then we'd move it out throughout the day, and then we'd have these really amazing, organic, really wholesome meals. And then at nighttime, we'd all gather together, and I can't remember what we called it, but it was a time to just listen and kind of share what's on your heart. And it was the practice of being together and sharing, like one person would share at a time what was going on for them. And then everybody would just listen. And there was no like, oh, here, have a tissue, or like, no, it's okay. Like, we would just listen. And there was like something really special about being super vulnerable with this group of strangers that you've just met, sharing what kind of was on your heart, whether it was like, oh, this was like the toughest day of my life today. Like, oh no, I had a really great time. Like, people were all over the place.
Yeah.
Some people were just like, oh my God, like, I don't know if I can do this. This is so tough. And they would just break down, and you would just sit with them. You would sit with them and in a way be like, it's okay. Like, we're here for you. Just let it out. And we're not going to comfort you because it's okay. It's okay to be like weeping.
Right. Interesting. So then what did that retreat lead into next for you?
That kind of led into learning more about like meditation, kind of delving into myself, doing some writing, just sitting with myself, if that makes sense, and and having conversations with myself without sounding
internally or out loud?
Internally,
okay.
And you know, when you take the time in the right environment, like, you know, we all live busy lives, we can't all sit down and meditate all the time, but
we should.
I mean, I think it all comes back to balance, and I don't think balance is like 50-50 or 25% of this and 25% of this. It's kind of just what your soul is calling out for that time. So there's times when I'm like, I really need to meditate, and there's some days where I'm just great and it's fine, and I think it's just being in tune with that voice, where it's like, hey, like, I need this, come on, check in with me. So especially like tough times and suffering, times of suffering is a really great time to check in and a really great time to learn about yourself. You know, otherwise, how would you learn? You just always be on this high and be like, yeah, life is great. Like, there's
no such thing as a constant high, right? Like,
no.
Life has balance, which I'm sure you feel too, right? Like, there's the good times aren't as good without the bad times, and
it's true. I know we hate the bad times, but how can we grow or expand in any area if there isn't suffering or bad times?
And sometimes it's the elastic effect too, right? You need to take a couple steps back before you shoot forward.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like you're taking 30 steps back.
To take 60 or 90 forward, though.
Yeah,
right?
You never know. Like, life is full of surprises.
So what led you into getting into the leatherwork class? Because that seems like it's been a defining time for you and a defining thing for you in your life.
So that also was part of the whole journey of like getting to myself and taking some time for myself, and, you know, stepping away from the kind of public persona and figuring things out with myself. Whether if I knew it wasn't necessarily like go see a therapist and have them figure it all out. I think sometimes if you just make space for yourself and without any agenda, then the answers will kind of come, or what you're missing is going to fall into place. So yeah, I took a art therapy course that was offered through the Cross Cancer Institute for cancer patients. Alberta Health, I think, put it on, and it was a leather making class. Not a leather making. We didn't tan the leather hides.
You're not out there in the farms doing all this.
That's not really bad, that class. It was a leather journal making class, and the receptionists were like, oh my god, this is so great, everybody loves this class. So I took it and I fell in love.
Unreal.
It was great, and the teacher was like really amazing. He was like this actor who like goes to the fringe festivals sometimes, folk festivals, and sells leather stuff, but he's really skilled. So he taught us kind of the basics of making a leather journal, and there wasn't any verbal therapeutic things about this class. Like, we didn't sit down, we didn't have like a talk about cancer before, or like a wind down or a debrief. It was just work with your hands. Here's the leather, here are the skills, here are the tools, and in a way that was so therapeutic for me. Like, I would never have imagined that I would love to work with mallets and X-Acto knives and hand tools.
Well, that seems like a very different approach from everything you had kind of been experiencing up until that point, right? You went through the public persona, the more openness and talking with other people, the social support, and then you had more of like the retreat and sort of the internal stuff, talking about it still. But then it's like, enough talk, right? Get to do it.
Yeah, it's like bang, 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 like the noisiest class. Like, it was so good. And I think it just healed deep down in a way that nothing else did. Yeah.
Well, I truly believe that having a purpose is an integral part of being a happy human being and being a happy person. Like, you need to have a purpose. So I can see how when your life has become about a disease and you're just focused on getting better, it's like, okay, but I get better and then what?
Yeah,
right?
totally.
That seems like it could be a missing element.
Yeah.
So at the point when you go into the leather making class, then have you gone into remission from round 2, or what was the healing process like there?
I was actually in radiation.
Okay, you were in radiation.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
I was going through radiation, which was pretty...
How did you have the strength to do that? Just because you loved it so much, you were able to battle through? Or?
No, I was actually doing a lot of things that I probably shouldn't have been doing during radiation. like skipping in the sun.
What was causing you to do that?
I don't know. I felt great.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh my God, like radiation's going to be a walk in the park. Don't you worry. Compared to chemo, this is going to be fine.
Yeah.
But I had a tough time deciding that I was going to undergo radiation, just because I'd taken so many drugs and, like it's back.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I've done everything you guys wanted me to do and it's back.
Right.
What? I was even still on drugs, like to kind of help it kind of stay at bay or stay away, and still it came back. So
had you done radiation the first time or just chemo? Okay, so this was completely new experience.
Yeah.
And with radiation, do you still get like the hair loss and other things like that? No, but you get something that is worse, maybe.
Okay, so with radiation, there's like different opinions about radiation. You can just imagine like what happened in Japan and all the repercussions. So it's like that kind of, not on that scale obviously, but it's pretty intense to your body.
Of course.
So there's the holistic view where it's like, oh, like you don't want to do that to your body, versus, like the medical, which is like, well, this is what we have to offer you. Because they said, the first time you did chemo, it was the most aggressive treatment we could give you, considering your age. It was 25. So you can do chemo if you want again, but we don't think it's going to help. I was like, okay, that's all I need to hear.
Anything, option B?
Yeah. I was like, it's cool. I don't need to take chemo again if you don't think it's going to help. Music to my ears.
Right.
So they're like, well, radiation is what we suggest. It'll increase it 50/50 or something like that. I can't remember what they were saying.
Right.
But the difference with radiation is, I believe you lose energy over time. Obviously, I was like exercising and feeling super fantastic and doing these art therapy classes. So I didn't feel like any loss of energy. The thing with radiation I found was after I had completed the radiation, it took me a really long time to bounce back. And I don't know if that was the cumulative, like all these surgeries and all these chemos over time, but I feel like it had a big effect in my body. And also I got second degree radiation burns.
Yeah, so physically it's really harsh on your skin too.
Yeah,
right?
Very harsh. Like skin sliding. Skin is gross.
Sliding off your body. So here's a question. I don't know if you've ever been asked this before, but is there any type of subconscious or reality in the connection between you going through, sort of a disfiguration in your physical skin to working with animal skin and leather? Is there any connection there at all? For you personally, I mean, like in terms of therapy, like...
Yeah, I remember beginning to work with the leather, and I'm very aware of like the scars, like in full grain leather, the scars and the imperfections of the leather, and I think I was really drawn to that. Yeah,
because you had scars too, right?
Yeah, I have major scars.
These guys are just like me, and yet you're turning something that's scarred into something beautiful.
Completely, yeah. There's definitely a parallel.
So at what point did you realize that this new therapeutic hobby of yours was going to become the business? It's going to become your world, or a big part of your world going forward?
I took the course a few more times, and then started making journals. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. You can get it.
This is my sister. She's a very important part of my life.
Perfect. Come on in.
Hi, Sabrina.
Hi, Sabrina.
Interview.
I'm Shane. We're just in the middle of a podcast. You can say hi to these guys if you want.
Say hi. Yeah, she was a huge part of my cancer journey.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What do you do, Sabrina?
Graphic designer.
Graphic designer? Okay.
She's my neighbor.
I live right next door.
Wi-Fi provider.
Yeah. Here, is this what you want?
Yeah. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Sabrina. No, that's okay. It's all good. We were talking about turning it into a business.
Oh yes. So then some of my friends started asking me to buy some of my journals. So then I started making it through that. And then, being a curious person by nature, I started researching different skills like hand stitching, and then I started playing around with my own designs, cutting templates, putting it together, making a lot of mistakes, wasting a lot of leather.
Is leather expensive, like the raw stuff? Like,
I mean,
before it
leather,
becomes...
yeah, generally leather is expensive. At that time I wasn't using the most expensive or high quality leather, and that was expensive for me. So as a hobby, right? So I was just like, like,
is there pressure to that if you screw something up?
Oh, completely. Especially depending on the leather. If you're working with a leather like that is vegetable tan, it's very delicate, especially if you're leaving it in its natural state and its natural color, like that nude color. And it can be very unforgiving. Like leather is very unforgiving, but it's also very forgiving. It just depends on what stage you're at what point. Like if you punch a hole in the veg tan in the wrong place, you're just gonna notice it.
Right.
So, especially when you're almost done whatever you're making, you're like, oh my god, did I just do that?
So when you're making items, do you have a proxy, or do you have an idea of a customer that you want to make this for, or is it just purely from your own instinct and what you love? Yeah,
I mean, that might not be the best business strategy, but
or it might be the best business strategy.
Maybe. It really comes from myself,
because you're an artist essentially, and you're creating things from within you, right? So if you were to try and create something that you thought someone else would like, that would be in a way selling out, maybe.
Well, in some sense, like, I mean, I do have to think sometimes, well, what might be good for the consumer, the client, the customer. And then from that point, I can always take my spin on it. Like a keychain. Well, what does Sylvia Soo want it to look like versus...
Sylvia Soo. The infamous Sylvia Soo.
Infamous.
So what you mentioned you do a little bit of speech, public speaking and talks. Do you travel at all for that, or is it mostly located in Edmonton here?
I've traveled before for it, I've been on some panels, just the stuff that I've been involved with, like documentaries and conferences and stuff like that. I've done a few talks here and there, but my next one will be in Edmonton.
Next speech?
Yep.
And when's that? Tell us.
That is in March. I don't know if it's released yet.
Oh, okay, perfect. I love getting the exclusive. I love that. That's amazing.
But I'll be a keynote speaker for one of the cancer conferences that is coming up in March, and I won't release all the information. I'll let them do that themselves. But
okay. And what else is on the docket for you for 2018?
2018, growing my business in different ways. So right now I am the sole designer and maker of all my goods. I'm hoping to expand in that area where I can take on the role of designer and bring in other goods from other places. And
do you sell everything out of Edmonton here, or do you ship at all? Yeah. So where do you reach to? Where do your products get to?
I ship mainly North America, so the States in here. I've shipped overseas as well, as far as Australia.
Nice.
Yep.
How do you find clients, or how do you find customers out there?
I mean, all the way out there, I don't think I find them. I think they find me somehow. I'm not sure how they found. Maybe just through different avenues. I do a lot of collaborations as well. So whether that's through social media or a collection that I've collaborated on, or
Do you think the backstory to your history in regards to the company, do you think that's a really vital piece of all your work as well for potential customers?
That's a good question. So with this whole cancer thing, it was huge, right? And you had mentioned before something about what next? Like this whole cancer thing was huge. Like what next?
Right.
And that was a big question for myself. I was like, wow, I've done a lot in the cancer world, but what next? I don't want to just be known as this cancer girl. Like, no, okay. So with the leather business, it was interesting because I actually didn't want to call it after myself. I was going to have some other kind of name like Maverick or whatever. I had put out like this whole list to a group of people, and they're like, well, just name it after yourself. Your name sounds so like a name that could go on a brand.
Yeah, it sounds high end.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
And you're thinking, well, it actually means forest. So.
Sylvia in the forest. I'm not sure what Soo means. So I was like, oh, fine. And then, people would ask me, like, how did you get into leather work?
Yeah.
Especially with my products.
And you're like, how much time you got?
Well, I was just like, I didn't want, in a way, to connect my story to my product, just because the way I thought about it, I was like, I don't want people to feel sorry for me. I just want them to buy the product because they love the product. They love the design. They love how well it's made. I don't want my story to have any influence over my product.
Right.
But as,
let me ask you, when did you realize that was a mistake? Because I can tell that you're going to say you realize it makes your product even better. It's not supplementing anything. It's not getting your product to good. It's taking it from good to great. Because at the end of the day, if someone can tell a great story behind the product they have, that makes it even better than just the quality of it, right? I don't know, maybe you disagree.
No, I agree with you. I don't think it was a mistake. I think for me it was a journey.
Right.
Yeah, it was a journey for me just because I was like, this is my cancer life. I want to make a name for myself that's not Sylvia Soo, Cancer Fabulous Diaries, or, this girl who's 25 who had cancer and boom, punched it out of the water. I just wanted to make a name for myself other than just Cancer Girl.
Right.
So it was very, kind of a mental conversation that I kept having with myself back and forth.
Yeah.
I was like, well, you know what, it's a great, and people were like, it's such a great story, you should capitalize on this. I'm like, I don't want to capitalize on this.
Yeah, I can understand your internal conflict. You want to stand on your own two legs, right?
Totally, yeah, and I don't want people, but at the same time, it's again, it's part of who I am. And this is kind of really important, a really important part of how I got into the leather business. So I'm kind of at the place now where I'm comfortable telling my story, and I've decided, that it is what it is, and it's a great story, and it's, part of the whole reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now. I would never have picked up a piece of leather and started making purses out of it if I didn't have to go through radiation. I guarantee you that. But yeah, it's been a process, and it's sometimes tough to kind of tie that in for me, into my business, because I don't want to feel like I'm capitalizing on my story, if that makes sense.
No, I totally get it, and you're always going to wrestle with that.
Yeah, and I just really genuine in my I want my products to stand on their own. But again, it's the story behind my products, and yeah. This question will seem like a bit of a left turn, but it's something that I've been really curious about, and I haven't had any near-death experiences, but most people agree that a near-death experience can help you reframe your priorities, reframe your life, and rethink what do I want to do. You've had, for all intents and purposes, two. I've also heard though that effect that I'm going to make the most of my life really diminishes. As you were saying before, the further you get from the event, the less of a big deal it seems. So first part of the question is, did you have that sort of near-death mindset of I'm going to make the most of life? And then part two would be, did it eventually diminish, or what have you found that allows you to continue moving forward, trying to improve and grow constantly? Right. Well, I've always had that mindset from very young. I mean, religion was bad in a lot of ways, but in some ways it was very good because we always felt like we could make a difference. I think that was if there was one slogan in my childhood, it's you can make a difference, and you're going to make a difference. Whether I was bringing people to Jesus.
Well, not sure what the difference is.
Yeah. So I've always felt like I could make a difference, just from the not-for-profit to being diagnosed and kind of being the face of young people with breast cancer. But the one interesting thing is, the first time I was diagnosed, I was waiting for that shift, where it's your life is going to do a 180. You're going to have this whoosh, you're going to be a different person. And it never came. I'm just I'm waiting. Like,
Right.
when is it coming? Like, why aren't I taking life more seriously?
What did that mean to you? Why do you think that was?
I don't know. It was very confusing, though. I was just like, oh, like, people would ask me questions and like, I don't have the answer that you want me to tell you.
Right.
Like, even on panels, like, they'd ask me questions and it would just be like, sorry, I'm going to give you a different answer because that's not my experience. So I'm not sure why that was, but the second time, maybe because I was in my mid-20s. I don't know. Who knows? At my age at that time, for me, it wasn't a time that I was kind of... I wasn't pushed to the point of I need to go inward, I think.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I have a very high threshold, a very high tolerance for life.
Yeah, for drama.
The second time, I was like, all right, life is like, what do we need to do?
Yeah, it was more serious, right?
Yeah, the second time was like, boom, like in the gut, like, oh, what? Okay, that's when I decided to go inward. And I think that's where that kind of that change of thinking came into play. Yeah, the second time, to be honest. So then, it's definitely helped me see life a lot differently. Especially when people, I don't know if it's necessarily a great thing, because like a lot of people are like, what's your 20-year plan? What's your 10-year plan? I'm just like, I don't know.
Die.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, maybe I won't live till then.
Yeah.
There's always that in the back of my head. I don't know if that's a good thing, but it's like, I really want to appreciate and enjoy my life now. And that is very, very important to me. And quality of life, like right now, is really important to me. Obviously, as I get further away from that diagnosis and those traumatic events in my life with cancer, I start to think about like security, especially as an artist, right?
Yeah.
Security and pension and all that kind of stuff is like that back and forth, like, oh my God, like, what happens if I live to 80?
The real world creeps back in.
Yeah.
Instead of just thinking, I'm just trying to get to next week or next month. It's like, no, we got to think next decade, right?
Yeah. So there's that pressure. But there's also that very strong experience of having gone through what I've gone through and being like, enjoy your life. Who knows? Like, no one is promised tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then what? I didn't enjoy my life. I didn't have a quality of life. I didn't take time and space to sit with myself and know myself more and understand myself more and make a difference in my life and everybody around me, their life.
You seem like a very self-aware person, and to me that's a more current theme that I'm noticing that successful people have is self-awareness. Know what you're capable of, know what you're not capable of. And I don't mean that in like, oh, you can't do that, but just know what your strengths are and follow those things. And then the other part is gratitude too, which is evident that you've got. Was that always the case, or did that really come about after the cancer?
I think it came more so after the cancer. Like 20s was a flurry of activity, of great things, of travel, of amazing experiences. And for stuff to happen so quickly and such many good things to happen in your life so quickly, it's hard to process it, I think, even at a young, especially at a young age, and really sit with the gratitude of being like, this isn't owed to me. Like, I don't deserve all these things.
Yeah.
But it happens and you just take it in. But now I think in my 30s, it's like this new journey of kind of self-awareness and getting to know myself more and finding the truth of what world do I live in? Like, how do I see the world? And gratitude, I think, is a huge thing, because one thing I'm to say, for when I was going through my treatments, especially radiation, before then I was traveling all the time. And then I was like, oh, I have to be in Edmonton for my surgeries. I actually wanted to move to Toronto for the longest time. And I had this point of view where I was like, oh, I hate it here. Like, I just hated it here. And every moment was thinking about when my next trip would be. When would my next escape be? And being put in the place where I couldn't leave because I had surgeries, or I had to recover, or I didn't know what like 3 months was going to look like, I kind of had to change my mindset and be like, hey, smarten up. Like, it's not about the place. It's about you, and it's about your mindset, and it's about finding beauty wherever you are. Like, you could be in the most beautiful place, but if you have a rotten attitude, you still have a rotten attitude.
Right.
Like, I think you find opportunity wherever you are. So that kind of shifted my mindset of being like, you need to find what's beautiful here.
Right. Focus on what you have versus what you don't have.
Yeah, and that just ties into gratitude. Because I think, contentment and gratitude is a very great thing to have and be able to display. And the more gratitude you have, the more you realize like how blessed you are, and the more life can give you, and the more you can give out to others if you're able to be in that place of gratitude. It just opens up a lot of things.
So I want to be respectful of your time and wrap up here, but I have to go through your resume and just say it out loud because it's pretty epic. And if I miss anything, tell me. But you've got 2-time cancer survivor. You've got your leather business, Sylvia Soo Leather. You've got the Cancer Fabulous Diaries, a book that you authored. You've got your blog, Cancer Fabulous. You're part of the SCAR Project. You've been in 2 documentaries. Hope is helping others prosper through English. That was your Korea project? Yeah. And you've been in a short film as well.
Oh, God.
Sounds like there's a good story there.
Oh, you did your backstory, huh?
I did a little research.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was in a short film. Short film? Are you talking about the independent film or the short film?
Oh, so there's 2.
Okay.
We don't have to go there if you don't want to.
Oh, no, I will. Okay, the short film, I won an award for a short film that I did with my sister, who just popped in. Just to make Sabrina, yeah. She's very dear to my heart. I helped raise her, and then when I went through chemo, she was there for me. She was amazing, and the short film is just kind of a very raw, again, a lot of video footage from that time where I didn't plan to make a video, but then I compiled it and make a very raw footage video. And it was just about the relationship and the turn of relationship, how my sister was always there for me, and kind of a love letter to my sister, like saying thank you for being there for me.
That's very sweet.
It was very special. Like, I love her a lot, yeah. And then the independent film was a film that I actually was part of. Sorry, it's just a little embarrassing.
Why is it embarrassing?
I don't know, because it's like a horror film and it's a little embarrassing. It's an independent film. So I auditioned for this film before, when I knew I had cancer, but before I lost all my hair. I didn't think I was going to get the role. Because the thing was, like, long black hair was one of the physical characteristics. So I auditioned, and then I kind of forgot about it, and then they called me back, and then by that time I'd lost all my hair.
By the way, I should probably tell you.
So I wore a really long black wig to my audition. Yeah. And after I did the audition, the makeup artist was like, "Is there a reason why you have a wig on?"
Was she the only one that knew? No one else knew? What was the reveal? Did you
Oh my God, no, I didn't take it off. I was just like, my mind was just like, this cancer. I was like, I was just like, well, there goes my chance. And then I told them, I was just diagnosed and I'm going through treatment. But I got the role.
Amazing.
And between 5th and 6th cycle of chemo, I was out in the woods, had the most amazing time. Yeah. Like, nobody else knew. Actually, one guy who was kind of like, had an interest in me, like, felt my hair, and he's like, "Oh, your hair feels really dry." And I was like, it's
Edmonton.
I'm like, well, it's not my hair. I'm like, and he's like, "Oh, it's not." I'm like, "No, it's a wig." And he's like, "Oh." I'm like, "Yes, why?" And he's like, "You're not a transvestite, are you?"
You're like, okay, so clearly I think about cancer more than other people.
Yeah, apparently.
Was that the best answer he could have had?
I just like, I don't know. It's like, wow. But yeah, that whole week I don't think anybody knew except the makeup artist. I would kind of wear my wig to bed, and then take it off when nobody was around and then put it back on.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's pretty incredible though, how you just still pursued it despite, trying to keep it a secret. But that's a perfect example of not using, not capitalizing, not trying to make anyone feel sorry for you. That's
I hated
absolutely,
that.
That's an incredible story. Thank you for sharing that. I really love that one.
You're welcome.
So where I was going with that, is listing all those accomplishments. Two parts again. I love the 2-part questions. What of those are you most proud of at this point? And then part 2 is what's still missing from that list? What do you want to do still?
Good question.
Thank you.
I was asking myself that the other day.
Perfect. Can't hide from it.
So I think my proudest accomplishment out of that list is the book. Yeah. Because I know it's helped a lot of people. And just the other day, one of my best friends called me and is like, my friend is just diagnosed with breast cancer. Can you send her a copy? Yeah. And I just love that. And
I got this. Sign.
Yeah, and hearing feedback from it, even people who just don't even have cancer and they read it, or people who are going through cancer with someone else, and then they're able to find some kind of hope or some kind of help or inspiration through the book. I mean, it's just beyond what I can do in my own capacity, but to have it as a book in libraries and in cancer centers, that's, it's really a blessing. And I'm so grateful to have that opportunity and that voice and touch people in that way. And what is missing from that list? I'm not sure yet. Okay. I couldn't answer that question.
But there is a blank space there. There's
a blank space, and I'm trying not to pressure myself too much about it, because I know it'll come find me if I'm actively kind of searching in a way for it, even though I might not know what it is. Yeah. That's
a perfect answer. Well, thanks for your time, Sylvia. Really appreciate it. Where can people find you and your work online?
So for the cancer stuff, I'm a little bit absent from that right now, but I do have a website, cancerfabulous.com. That's just everything that I've been through and some articles and stuff like that on there. On Facebook as well, Cancer Fabulous, and Instagram. And then for my professional leather work, sylviasoo.com and Sylvia Soo Leather on Facebook and Instagram.
Perfect. Fellas, Valentine's Day is coming up, right? That must be a busy time for you.
Get your orders in.
All right, Sylvia, thank you so much.
Thank you.
See ya. As always, guys, thank you so much for listening. The support has been tremendous. The messages you guys have sent really mean the world to me. See you next week.